Daf Yomi Tractate Bava Metzia, page 4b, top of the page, and we're starting the Braita from that the Gemara raises an objection to the opinion of Rabbi Chia from a Braita, which states, if Slaim Dinirin, Malva Omer Chamesh, etc. If it is written in a promissory note that one borrowed an unspecified amount of slaim, or that one borrowed an unspecified amount of dinars, and the creditor says, I lent you 5 selah, and the debtor says, you lent me only 3. In this case, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, since the debtor admitted to part of the claim, he takes an oath. Rabbi Akiva says, I don't understand what the point of a promissory note with an unspecified amount. What will be the point of that? I don't know. That's strange. Anyway, that's what happened. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, since the debtor admitted to part of the claim, he takes an oath. Rabbi Akiva says, since the wording of the note indicates only that he owes 2 dinars, I thought it was unspecified. The minimum plural amount. Oh, it's just dinarim. Oh, that's the minimum plural amount. I see. Okay, so I guess he owes dinars, so it has to owe at least 2 dinars. Or salayim, whatever. By admitting he owes 3, he is merely the equivalent of one returning a lost item, and he's exempt from taking an oath. In any event, the Braita teaches that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, since the debtor admitted to part of the claim, he takes an oath. This indicates that the reason that he is obligated to take an oath is specifically because he said that he owes 3 dinars, but had he admitted to owing only 2, he would have been exempt from taking an oath. And concerning the minimal obligation recorded in this promissory note, to which he admits, which is 2 dinars, it is as though he said, here you are. An obligation recorded in a promissory note is tantamount to an obligation concerning which the defendant says, here you are. And therefore conclude from it that one who says, here you are, is exempt from taking an oath with regard to the part of the claim he denies. The Gemara rejects this. No. Actually, I will say to you that even if he admitted that he owes 2 dinars, he is obligated to take an oath, and the reason that the Braita teaches the dispute specifically with regard to the case of 3 dinars is not to exclude a case where he admits that he owes only 2, but rather it is to exclude the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says that he is the equivalent of one returning a lost item, and he is therefore exempt. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar teaches us that he is considered like one who admits to part of the claim and is obligated to take an oath. The Gemara asks, if so, the Braita should have been phrased differently. If the defendant is obligated to take an oath, even in a case where he admits that he owes 2 dinars, rather than stating that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, since the debtor admitted to part of the claim, he takes an oath, the Braita should have stated, even this one who admits to owing 3 dinars takes an oath, in addition to one who admits to owing 2 dinars. Rather, that explanation should be rejected. Actually, if he admits that he owes 2 dinars, he is exempt from taking an oath. But, nevertheless, one who says, here you are, is obligated to take an oath. And the reason for this distinction is that, here, the case is different, as the note supports him, meaning that it indicates that he owes 2 dinars. Therefore, he is exempt from taking an oath with regard to the rest. Alternatively, if he admits to owing 2 dinars, he is exempt for a different reason, because a promissory note creates a lien on the debtor's land, and there is a principle that one does not take an oath with regard to a debtor's denial of a debt that is secured with a lien on land. Oaths are administered only when one denies owing money or movable property. There are those who raise an objection to Rosh Hashanah's opinion from the latter clause of this Braita, which teaches that Rabbi Akiva says he is merely the equivalent of one returning a lost item and is exempt from taking an oath. The Gemara infers the reason he is exempt is that he said that he owes 3 dinars, but had he admitted to owing only 2, he would have been obligated to take an oath. And concerning the minimal obligation recorded in this promissory note, to which he admits, which is 2 dinars, it is as though he said, "Here you are." Learn from it that one who says, "Here you are," is obligated to take an oath. The Gemara rejects this. No, actually, I will say to you that if he admits that he owes 2 dinars, he is also exempt from taking an oath, and the reason that the Braita teaches the dispute specifically with regard to the case of 3 dinars is to exclude the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who says that he is considered one who admits to part of the claim and he is obligated to take an oath. Rabbi Akiva therefore teaches us, in his opinion, the defendant is the equivalent of one returning a lost item, and he is exempt from taking an oath. The Gemara comments, so too, it is reasonable to explain the Braita as just explained, as if it enters your mind that one who admits that he owes 2 dinars is obligated to take an oath, how does Rabbi Akiva deem him exempt in a case where he admits that he owes 3 dinars? Perhaps this debtor is employing artifice, thinking, if I say that I owe 2, I will be required to take an oath. Therefore, I will say that I owe 3, so that I will be considered equivalent to one returning a lost item, and will be exempt from taking an oath. Rather, learn from it that even if he admits that he owes only 2 dinars, he is also exempt from taking an oath. The Gemara asks, but this explanation poses a difficulty to the opinion of Rabbi Chia, that a defendant is obligated to take an oath in a case where he says, "Here you are." In other words, Rabbi Chia's opinion is negated by the case of one who admits that he owes only 2 dinars, where he is exempt from taking an oath. The Gemara answers the case there is different, as the note supports him. Therefore, he is not required to take an oath. Alternatively, he is exempt because a promissory note creates a lien on the debtor's land, and there's a principle that one does not take an oath with regard to a debtor's denial of debt that is secured with a lien on land. Mar Zutra, son of Rabbi Nachman, raises an objection to the opinion of Rav Sheshet from a Mishnah, Shavuot 38b. If one claimed that another owed him vessels and land, and the defendant admitted to owing him vessels, but denied that he owes him land, or conversely, if he admitted to owing him land, but denied that he owes him vessels, he is exempt from taking an oath with regard to what he denies. If he admitted that he owes him part of the land, he is exempt. If he admitted to owing some vessels, he is obligated to take an oath with regard to the remainder. The Gemara infers the reason he is exempt in the first cases is because the claim is for vessels and land, as a claim with regard to land is not subject to an oath. But if the claim for vessels and vessels, in other words, 2 sets of vessels, in a manner similar to the case of a claim for vessels and land, he is obligated to take an oath. What are the circumstances of such a case? Is it not a case where he said to him, "Here you are," and learned from the Mishnah that one who says, "Here you are," is obligated to take an oath? The Gemara answers, no. I actually will say to you that the claim for vessels and vessels, he is also exempt. And the fact that the Mishnah teaches the case of vessels and land teaches us this different halacha. If he admitted that he owes some of the vessels and is therefore obligated to take an oath, he is also obligated to take an oath with regard to the land that he denied owing his creditor, although in and of itself one does not take an oath with regard to land. The Gemara asks, what is this teaching us? Is this teaching the halacha of binding? Zokikin? According to this halacha, one who is obligated to take an oath in response to a claim can be required to take an oath with regard to an additional claim of land. This cannot be, as we already learned this halacha in the Mishnah in Tractate Kedushin 26a, when there is a claim brought against the person for movable property and land, and he is obligated to take an oath with regard to the property that does not serve as a guarantee, meaning the movable property. It binds the property that serves as a guarantee, meaning the land, so that he is forced to take an oath with regard to it too. Why is this halacha repeated in Tractate Shavuot? The Gemara answers, the Mishnah here in Shavuot is the main reference to this halacha, as it discusses the halachot of oaths, whereas the Mishnah there in Tractate Kedushin cites it incidentally in the context of a broader survey of the difference between these two types of property.